Hello and welcome back to the Adventures of Midlife.com channel for another adventure. In this video, I will take you through my adventure flying the Singapore Airlines Business Class from Singapore to London on the Airbus A380. Just a little background to the story. I was in Singapore as part of my Asian trip. I had flown from Toronto to Istanbul in Turkey and then to Colombo before flying to Singapore. My Toronto to Colombo leg was with Turkish Airlines, and then from Colombo to Singapore was with Singapore Airlines. Then from Singapore to London it will be again Singapore Airlines, then from London to Toronto Air Canada. All the flights were business class and I had paid 225,000 Aeroplan Points plus just over 300 Canadian dollars, which is about 200 USD in taxes and fees. Price wise, it would have cost me about 20,000 Canadian dollars. Just this leg, the Singapore to London leg, would have cost me just over 6,000 Canadian dollars for the one-way ticket. Some travelers say they paid 80,000 Aeroplan Points just for this leg, or you could pay just over 100,000 KrisFlyer points. When I arrived in Singapore, I had a larger luggage which I didn't want to tag along. So I asked the Singapore Airlines counter whether they could check in, even though my Singapore to London flight was more than 24 hours away. But they said it's fine, so I checked in. And then I went on to spend the day in Singapore by taking a hike and enjoying some of the sightseeing and of course good food. On the day of the flight, I had to check in again, and this time I decided to check in my hand luggage as well, so that I was traveling just with my backpack. The check-in was breeze as usual with Singapore Airlines Business Class. And after spending some time at the Chris World Lounge, I went to board the aircraft. When I reached the boarding gate and looked through the large windows, I saw the Airbus A380, the world's largest passenger plane, and I was so happy because there's something special about flying business class on this beast. Boarding was smooth, but I had a little adventure. Usually, the business class ramp is the first access to the aircraft, and I saw that and I walked through it. I entered the aircraft, climbed the stairs, and a flight attendant guided me through the aisle. Then I realized something. I was in the suites section. It was good to see those luxurious cabins. We left the gate a little late, which I think was caused by the heavy rains with thunder and lightning. By the time we left the gate, I had my glass of orange juice. I would have preferred a glass of champagne to enjoy my flight, but alcohol wasn't offered. I then realized that this was breakfast time in Singapore. Let's talk about the cabin. The seat setup for the business class is the usual 1-2-1 setup, and as usual, I went for the window seat. This was a staggered seat with the seat closer to the aisle and the storage ottoman between the seat and the window. The cabin had a vibrant pink lighting with a bright orange storage shelf. I loved the color scheme. It was very positive and optimistic. Though the seat is closer to the aisle, the cabin has a taller outer wall, giving it a sense of privacy. And yes, there was only one window in my cabin. In some other business class flights, I had up to 3 windows. Well, I guess this is a first world or a business class problem. Let's talk about the seat. The 180-degree lie flat seat itself was very comfortable. As per the Singapore Airlines, it was hand-stitched full-grain leather with side wings to facilitate lounging. And in Singapore Airlines words, you can go from boardroom to bedroom at the push of a button. And sure enough, the buttons to control the seat were few and simple. Below the row of 6 seat controlling buttons were another set of buttons to control the light, to call the flight attendant, etc. etc. With the seat in straight up position, there was ample space for me to extend my legs. And when I switched into the lie flat position to check, again there was still enough space to extend my legs into the footrest beneath the front wall. And I had no complaints about the quality of the bed or the covers. One of the important features of business class flight, or any flight in fact, is storage. Even though this time I didn't need much storage space because I was flying with just my backpack. But as a top class carrier, Singapore Airlines provides sufficient storage for its business class passengers. From the bright orange storage shelf to the ottoman space and hidden compartments, everything was designed for convenience. Here there's almost a hidden space to keep your valuables. And then there is the flip open vanity mirror. And yes, there's a universal charger, 2 USB-A ports, and even a credit card tap for duty-free shopping or Wi-Fi. But I hope soon they will install the fast charging USB-C ports as well. Now let's talk about one of the most important aspects of any long haul flight, the meals. And Singapore Airlines has a very extensive meals menu. They can be divided into 3 types: the in-flight meals, the book-the-cook meals, and 3 special meals. Special meals include meals such as diabetic meals, low-fat meals, religious meals, non-seafood meals, and even a bland meal. Both the special meals and the book-the-cook meals have to be pre-ordered. When possible, I use the book the cook feature, and for this flight I had used this feature to book my both meals about 2 weeks ahead of the flight. The first meal we got was obviously the breakfast, and it was served about an hour after we took off. For starters, I had assorted fruits with oats. There were also various bread types, and I went for my favorite, a croissant. The main course was Iral Milahu Elumichai Korma, or in English, shrimp pepper lime korma, which I had booked through the book the cook feature. It was flavorful, well cooked, and I felt was a little bit too much for me in the morning. Or perhaps it was the right amount, but I have been on vacation for more than 2 weeks in Sri Lanka and then 1 day in Singapore, and I had been eating a lot. So maybe my belly was kind of feeling full. About 7 hours after takeoff and about another 7 hours before landing, the second meal, which was the dinner, was served. First came the canapé, which was the Singapore chicken satay with onion, cucumber, and a spicy peanut sauce as dip. The satay was well grilled, and the sauce had an almost good balance of spiciness with that nutty flavor of peanuts. Then I was served with the appetizer: seared tuna loin with haricot beans, cherry tomatoes, olives, and quail egg. Again, the tuna was seared appropriately, though it certainly had lost some of its taste because it was not served immediately. But for airline food, this was good. And then the main dish from the book the cook menu, the Singapore roti prata, which is the Indian flatbread paratha with spicy fish curry with okra, eggplants, and tomatoes. This was a great meal, though the curry wasn't as spicy as I thought it would be. But that's understandable as my spice tolerance is relatively high. And of course, this time I got my alcohol. There were also snacks available throughout the flight, but I didn't need any. The amenity kits. Unlike many other peers like Qatar Airways and Emirates, Singapore Airlines is frugal with its amenity kits. The Penhaligon's kits are available only on request. And they do look, how can I say, frugal. But we already got our eye masks, socks and bathroom slippers just laid out in the cabin. And in the toilet, they had a shelf where you could get razors, toothbrushes and toothpaste. And talking of the toilet, it was always kept clean and smell free. Flying without internet connection is becoming a thing of the past. So free Wi-Fi was available for business class passengers in this Singapore Airlines flight from Singapore to London. I had used Singapore Airlines Wi-Fi on my flight from JFK to Singapore a year ago. And I wasn't that satisfied because connecting to the system was challenging and then it dropped the connection a lot. But this time it was different. Connecting was easy peasy and the bandwidth was good too. Of course, there were areas when the Wi-Fi didn't work because of geographical or other challenges, but these were issues that were beyond the control of the airlines. Well, after about 14 hours, we reached Heathrow. Finally, was the flight worth? Absolutely. I liked the flight for the cool cabin, the great meals, a super comfortable bed. The entertainment options were okay, but then I wasn't really in the mood to watch that many movies. And above all, great service. Well, that's it for now for this edition of the adventuresofmidlife.com channel. In this video, I took you through my adventure flying with Singapore Airlines Business Class from Singapore to London on the Airbus A380. Thanks for watching and I will see you again in my next adventure. Till then, ciao.